Eli to make more checks at the line, make more calls, get a good place, get a bad place, a good place. How was that operation been through 2 games, live action?
Yeah, it's been good. Obviously, we want to, really get in good plays when we can, right, or getting good protections, and I think, obviously being year 2 of the system now, right, going through a whole offseason as the guy, going into games, him understanding, okay, hey, when I get this look, this is what we're trying to do. Hey, we want to check to this run against this front, or we want to check to this pass, right? So, or this protection, so we can make sure we pick it up and be in a better situation to help the line out, right? And I think he's been doing a great job of understanding that, and it takes a lot. It makes it a lot easier on me to call plays because I don't have to worry about that stuff as much, right? Because he knows exactly what I'm thinking to do those things. So, that's been a big blessing, and he's taking ownership of that, which I like.
Do you find that it's essentially maybe in every play? Like, how frequently does he get to line and say, "Oh, I'm going to change the protection"?
It just depends. It depends on who we're playing and the situation. He has the freedom. I give the quarterbacks a lot of freedom in practice. I tell them, if you're going to mess up in practice, right? If you're going to change a route or change a protection or change a play, do it in practice a bunch, and then I'll coach off of it, right, in the meeting room, and why this was a good check, this wasn't a good check, and so we can know the reasons why we want to do things and not do things. So, he has a lot of freedom to, change to a protection or change to what we're looking for in the run game, or hey, if we're getting a certain single route, he can change it, and I think you have to do that, with the way college football is becoming, it's the NFL, and offensively, it's always been kind of the college is trickling to the NFL, right? I kind of believe that the NFL on defense is trickling more to college, to take away more of the RPOs and passing game. So, you got to be able to get into good plays, and your quarterback's got to be able to understand, what you're looking at, and I think that really helps.
For as effective as Eli has been, just what have the conversations with him been like, just looking at the interceptions both in week 1 and week 2, just how he can learn from those and just to avoid that and grow from it?
Yeah, obviously, those are preventable plays. Like those are plays that's my job to coach off of, right? The first one, he picked the right side of the field. He just didn't throw it. We had the running back and the stick open, and he went backside late, which you can't do, right? You never want to not see what's going on the backside, and that's one of those plays as a quarterback that he knew exactly when he came off the field what happened. It wasn't one like, oh shoot, he knew exactly what he did wrong, and the same thing last week. He steps up to run, and he can make throws on the move. He's been doing a great job of that, right? Making throws on the move, and I'm always on him about, hey man, like when you make a decision, because that's when he's playing at a really high level. It's when, hey, he's just running right now, or hey, he's stepping up to throw. You know what I'm saying? And that's just a learning process. And I think for him, for him to come off the field and know exactly, what he should have done, it just makes us so much easier to move forward to the next play. And I think another thing that's been good about him this year is that when things have maybe didn't work out the way we wanted, and it could be an incompletion or something like that, right? He's done a great job just moving on to the next play and the next drive. Does that make sense? And I think that shows growth and just growing up and kind of being more mature and understand that, listen, football is an up and down game, right? There's going to be some drives where, we might score 3 or 4 drives in a row, and then we might have a couple of lapses, right? But, hey, how do we now handle the next drive, which I thought we did the last game. The game got close, and then we made a play when we needed to and then broke it back open again. So just having that type of confidence and mentality.
Kade, have you been pleased with the offensive line's ability to open up lanes for the running backs?
Yeah, I believe that we've done a pretty dang good job of getting on guys. The first game is always hard because you don't really haven't seen any film from this year, and so many transfers you really don't know who people have. We created a couple explosives. We're averaging over I think 5 a carry right now, which is really good in the country when it comes to yards per carry. I think in the ACC, for us running the ball, we want to be explosive, right? And we're going to take what the defense gives us. Now last game, I think just being honest, I think there was a couple times that we blocked our butts off up front, and a couple times the running backs got tackled one-on-one. There's like 3 or 4 plays where they got to make a play too. Instead of that run being a 5-yard game, it could have been an explosive run. So because we believe that if we get the running backs on the safeties, or like we did the first game with Dez, right? He went 70, right? So we want guys that can make those guys miss, and we can't. We get them on that second, third level. They got to make big plays. But the O-lines I think is doing a heck of a job. Another thing is like we're going to, like I said, take what the defense gives us. I think the hitch route that Poppy caught. was a run play that we called, but it was an RPO, and if the Sam stays out the box, I mean, if you watch that film, the left side we caved that thing in, man. I mean, the tackle on the left and the tight end, I mean, we murdered the backside of that play. If the Sam stays out the box, that ball screams down the hatch it would have been an explosive run, but instead we had thrown it out there to the hitch. He makes the guy miss an explosive pass, So we're gonna keep trying to take what the defense gives us, and you play a light box, a little bit what happened last year at the end of the season. Hey, we're going to run the ball at you, and we're going to be okay with those 4 or 5 yards. You know what I'm saying? And then hopefully we can break a couple. So that's kind of been our mentality, and I think our line's doing a good job of that.
On the 4th and 1 where Eli took the pass that was incomplete to Coffey, were you comfortable with him throwing there, or do you think he should have ran? Because he said he felt like he just needed to make the throw.
I think it just comes down to making a decision. We had the right call. I'm a type of guy who. If I got a chance to throw it down the field in a situation to throw a touchdown, I'm going to do it because, I'm all about the percentages. And everyone says run on 4th and 1. Well, if you run it and don't get it, then it's battle no line, right, or whatever, right? So, we had a chance in that game to not get a bunch of deep coverage on that play, and we got the perfect look. We got a blitz, and we did a hell of a job picking up the blitz. The running back did a great job coming across. They brought the corner to try to bring a guy off the edge, and we picked up the corner. And we had 3 guys running vertical, and I want to just see him obviously stand in there and throw it, right? But if you're going to run, then go run, right? I feel like he went to run, then went to throw, and I can't. You got to make a decision, right? Either throw it or run it. And I think if he would have done those things, I think that play would have been better. But the great thing about him is that he knew when he came off the field, right? I either got to throw it or I got to run it, and that's what we've been preaching, right? Just make a fast decision, and I can live with that.
You had 2 tight ends catch touchdowns on Saturday. Eli said that's the first time he threw a touchdown to a tight end in his career. How comfortable do you feel with the 4 tight ends, or with even ultimately the 4 tight ends that you have to use them in those type of scenarios in the red zone?
Yeah, obviously, for me, I think that room's got a really high football IQ. Let's just as a group, man. I think our tight ends, they all understand the system. A couple of them been in the system for now 2 years, and it kind of helps, when you got Jake and Malachi and Altsman, that's 3 guys that have been in the system now for a whole year. So when a transfer comes in, they're not just learning from the coaches, they're learning from the guys in the room, right? Think about last year, everybody was new at that position. So, it makes it a little bit harder to do more. But also, for me, I just kind of, I'm a game planner, it ain't about throwing it to the tight end or throwing it to the receiver or throwing it to the running back. It's kind of like whatever we can do that game to score a bunch of points and score touchdowns in the red zone. I pride myself in being good in the red zone because I tell our kids all the time, if we're going to drive that ball all the way down the field and do all that work, right? And run the ball and be physical and the line's tired and we're grinding that ball down the field, then we got to dang score touchdowns, right? We don't need to kick field goals. And so we really pride ourselves on scoring touchdowns down there. And whatever that situation is of who can get the ball, then, hey, we're going to try to get that guy the ball and try to make it as easy as possible with less reads and try to get guys open so, we can get some easy touchdowns because it's hard to throw the ball down there. When that end zone, when that red zone streaks, it's hard. You have the back of the end zone, which is kind of out of bounds, right? So the defense has an extra defender back there, right? Because you can't run deep down the field when you're in the red zone. So, we want to be able to attack people down there. And hey, this year also we've been great, just like last year. We were great in the goal line running the football. I mean, we've been running it inside the 3-yard line and scoring points. So we got to be able to do that too and be physical.
Randy Bates described his defense to us yesterday as an unfinished product in 2 games. Just curious how you're feeling about the offense through 2 games, and in other words, what would constitute a finished product on offense in your eyes? And how close do you feel like your unit is to being a finished product?
I mean, ACC champ. We should be. I mean, to me, that's being an ACC championship game, right? Like, there's no finished product. I believe, just everything we're preaching every week about getting better every week, right? Like, are we getting better from week 1 to week 2? Are we getting better from week 3 to week 4? Like, we're not coming out to just get through practice. I feel like that's something I believe in. I'm a young guy, but I kind of have an old school mentality because my dad. But I believe in, we're never going to be a finished product until the end of the season. I feel like our guys have to come out every week to get better. Because if we don't get better, that's how you lose a game that you're not supposed to lose. And so, I have that mentality that we're going to come out and we're going to be better than last week. And then the next week we're going to be better than that. And hopefully by the end of the season we're in that ACC championship. And that means that we're where we want to be, and that means we reached our ceiling that year, So, that's the mindset.
What stood out to you about the brawl last year, and what have you heard about what to expect in Morgantown?
It's an awesome atmosphere, obviously being at home, helped last year, right? I remember my wife and them going to the game, you got more live with Pitt fans. And, but, you could just tell the passion of the game, the love of the game, the hatred, it's all there, and it feels like a deep South rivalry, it's real hatred football. And I love that, I think that's what makes the game special. And it means something, and no one wants to go and win at West Virginia more than anybody in this room and in our fans and our boosters and our players. We want to go get a win there, and we want to do that. And we're going to do everything this week to get that job done. And I think that's what makes that fun is that they didn't play their best game last week, but like Coach said, they're going to play their best game this week because it's Pitt WVU, so we got to come ready to play.
Kade, how does crowd noise impact you guys running tempo?
I think I think it matters, I really believe that, we got to be really focused. We got to have great communication. It's going to be on the road. Cincinnati was pretty loud last year when we played over there. Obviously I've heard, West Virginia, I've never played there, so I've heard it's really loud. And so, for me, man, that's on us as a coaching staff and an offense to really focus and understand. Don't let the stage, get to us, right? Understand that, yes, a rival game, there's going to be emotions, but we got to go out and do our job every play. Because I always say, as long as we do our job and we don't hurt ourselves, we're going to be pretty good on offense every game. And I think we have a chance to score points. If we're hurting ourselves, getting penalties and getting false starts and backing up, then hey, we've been playing pretty good football for the most part the first 2 weeks because we're staying ahead of the sticks, and we have to do that this weekend. Definitely on the road versus that environment. We don't want to be second, third, and long with the stadium jumping, right? We don't want that. We want to make sure we're in good down distance so we can communicate and build run our whole offense.
What have you liked from the wide receiver room, especially from Blue Hicks in his first year in this offense?
Yeah, I like our, everybody talks about, I think we have talent. I think we have speed, right? Like, I think we can scare people vertically. I think if teams do come up, we can hit plays over the top. I think we can do more out in space. I mean, we threw him a freaking jet sweep last week. He makes two guys miss, and, that's a passing play. But really, it's a 20-yard run, We didn't get that in the stat sheet. I mess with Coach Darby all the time because he's like, you just want passing yards, But it's it was a jet sweep, and he makes plays. But, when it comes down to it, the one thing I love about that room right now is that we don't have an ego. We got guys who want to win. We got guys who are about winning and trying to win a championship, and they don't really care who gets the ball. They just want to, they want to do their job, and when they're a chance to make a play, right, they're going to make a play. Kenny Johnson even came over after the first drive on that bang route that hit him in the hands, and he's like, man, I got to make that play. It's not about how many targets. Like, hey, when I get targeted, I got to make a play. So just taking that ownership and buying into the culture that we want on offense, those guys have done that, and I love that group for it.
We got to see Jakarian Turner for the first time this past Saturday. What did you like about his performance, and then what can we expect now that he's in the mix? Yeah,
obviously I liked the first time he carried it. I mean, he hit it up in there on counter. Had no fear, man. Put his foot in the ground, and you saw at the end of the game when he bounced that ball out in space. Now I got on him about getting tackled right there, right? Like, that's one of those runs where, it's a 12-yard game, but I expect him to turn that into a 40-yard gain, because he has the speed to do that. He got tripped up. But, the one thing I loved is that when he got down on the goal line, he played low pad level and stuck it up in there and had no fear as a freshman, which you like to see. So just love where he is confident-wise. He missed a lot of camp with the hamstring. So, the one thing about him as a freshman is that he works his butt off. Not many freshmen are in here that early in the morning making sure that he knows the game plan, he knows what's going on, and I think that's why he was able to get on the field after missing all the camp really with the hamstring, because he knows what's going on for a freshman. I think that's a good thing.
Okay, you talked about the hatred in this rivalry.
Yeah.
A couple months ago, there was a Steelers player who was a West Virginia guy and wiped his cleats on a Pitt thing, posted on social line. I was at that Steelers practice. Quite a few of your guys were out there.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Is that something you guys have brought up at all this week?
Listen, man, I remember when it happened, it was a big thing, and our players were out there talking and trying to get him going. But, when it comes down to it, we know how big the game is. We know that it matters. I love that our kids right now, man, they're focused on doing their job. They're focused on having a great week of practice. We're just going out there to play the game and play our best, right? Because, we still haven't played our best as a whole team, and we want to go do that, and so I think we had the right mindset, and this team is not worried about all the hoopla and all the stuff that's happened. We're worried about going out and just playing good football and doing our job.
In terms of Eli, last year I felt like you covered him So there were times he would kind of lock in on something that you really wanted to hit in your offense.
Yeah.
And it would take him some time to like get off of that once it wasn't there. How has he been at that this year as far as maybe just taking what's there and what's available and you coaching him to see that?
Yeah, and I think that's obviously the growth of the system, right? Like when you get pushed into the starting role and your first week with the ones is the week of the game, and it's a new system, and usually the first two reads, right? But when and that was the thing that we really preached in the season last year, is like, hey, when we start getting all these different coverages and different looks, like we have to have our answers. And I think this offseason he's done a hell of a job, obviously getting back really healthy, but just understand the system, and hey, when I do get the wrong coverage or I do get this blitz, where are my answers? Whether it's protection or whether it's the check downs or whether it's the hot. Does that make sense? And that's why I feel like, we've only given up 2 sacks because we're getting the ball out faster and we're playing faster and we're helping the line out some, and that's what the quarterback's got to do. He's got to know where his answers are at, and it's my job to make sure that he knows where they're at and just trust the system, right? Like this is a quarterback's friendly system, and we have a lot of answers, and we practice throwing it more than probably anybody in the country, because I believe if you can't throw the ball on 1st and 10 or 2nd and 10 versus a great defense, then you're not going to be successful, because you want to be able to do both. You got to be balanced. And so, going into year 2, that's one thing that he's really taken ownership of is doing those things, and that's what makes us a lot better.
Last one, Stephen. You talked earlier about wanting to get better every week, but through 2 weeks, do you feel like as a unit the offense is where you expected or where you hoped?
Say that again, sorry?
Do you feel like the offense is where you hoped or expected they would be at this point of the season?
I guess, yeah. I mean, no, I have a high expectation. I feel like we need to get better every week. My expectation every week is to score 50 points. That's the mentality. Like I said, the one year I won a national championship and didn't lose a game at Valdosta State, we averaged 52 a game. And we went 14-0. Why? Because we scored a bunch of points and people couldn't keep up. So, now some of it depends on plays, right? Like we've played probably some of the less snaps per game in the country the first 2 games. I mean, I think we played 60-something plays week 1, and we only played like 57, 58 plays last game, I think. So now that also means that we've been explosive. We're creating more bigger plays. I feel like there's always room to improve. Yeah, we scored I think 6 or 7 or 6 out of 9 drives last game or whatever it was, touchdowns. But shoot, why not score 50-something, 60-something? I always get on our guys every week. Guys, we left 3 touchdowns on the field. I'm not happy with scoring 45 or even scoring the week before. I feel like there's a couple drives that we can always get better, and we should have finished those drives, or we should have gained the first down and kept that drive alive, right? So my expectations is to always try to be the best we can be and score every drive.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Kade.
I appreciate y'all.
Lyndon, you said your 2 biggest goals in the preseason were protecting the quarterback and opening up lanes for the running backs. How would you assess the O-line in those 2 categories specifically?
I feel like we've been okay this season doing both things. There's definitely room for improvement, but I feel like this year we're playing with a lot more high effort and just making those big holes. I mean, Dez and Joel's been having some big holes to run through. Even Little Boosie, we call him, had a little good run. So I feel like we've been doing a lot better this season, but there's always more room for improvement.
What are you supposed to expect of playing in Morgantown?
I feel like I heard Morgantown is my first time playing down there, so it's going to be a high-intensity atmosphere. A lot of crazy fans might get a little crazy in the stands or whatever, but I know it's a good defense we're playing against this weekend, and it's just a big rivalry game for us, so we're all ready for that.
How challenging do you think it will be personally for you as a center with the crowd noise and everything?
It might be a little challenging, but I just got to key into Eli's voice and the cadence and make sure everybody's on the same page so we can all have an operational offense.
Whether it's around practice or around campus, does it feel different? Can you feel the energy for this?
Yeah, I could definitely feel the energy, especially around practice. Our coaches are even more harder than fall camp and the first 2 games, and they're just making sure we're well prepared and everybody has higher energy and just they expect greatness for us this weekend. So and continuing on the week. So it's been very intense in practice.
When you experienced it last year, how did this rivalry compare to the ones that you had at NC State?
I feel like emotionally last year it was because it was like my first one. It was a lot different because of the history behind the backyard brawl. Me getting my chance, us as a team getting our chance to play in Morgantown, I just can't wait to see the atmosphere. I can't wait to see what they bring out. Just all the camaraderie that comes with the game this weekend.
You guys have placed a lot of emphasis on playing with that crowd noise in practice so far. How has the preparation been so far, playing in that type of?
Yeah, they definitely have the crowd noise very, very loud in practice. So it's kind of hard to kind of focus in again on the snap cadence and stuff like that. But if anything, it's going to be more louder in the practice than it is in Morgantown. So I feel like we're going to be real prepared. So like I said before, we have a good operational offense.
And you guys have put a lot of points on the board for these first 2 weeks. But I guess how do you feel that this offense has progressed from training camp to
what I could say is, like I know I keep re-emphasizing it, but the operation of our offense, I feel like each week we didn't got better operationally from week 1 to week 2. And like I said, I feel like everything is just clicking on the offense right now. Everybody is getting in the same reads. The quarterback is helping us split protections when we need it, making changes to the wide receivers' routes when need be. So I just feel like everything is just flowing right now on our offense. We're getting better each week.
It's different with Eli this year.
I feel like his composure and the way he takes leadership of the offense, getting all the guys in the right positions and making sure they're at where they need to be, and honestly, just his competitiveness is a lot higher, and just his growth as a man, as a football player this year is a lot different from last year.
When you guys come off the field in the last 2 games, the first team unit and that second team unit goes out there. Have you watched much of them, and is there anyone that you've kind of looked to that you say, okay, if I can't go or Keith or Jeff can't go, they can step in and really play?
Yeah, I definitely feel like our twos this year is a lot better than we were last year. I know if I were to, knock on wood, if I go down, Ryan Coretta, he'd be a good replacement for me. Giovanni Cooley, he's the right tackle. Tyree. He's a good right tackle for us also. And Kendall Stanley, he's our swing guy right now. So if besides center, if the left guard, left tackle, right tackle go down, Kendall will be ready to play any position. So I feel like we have a lot of depth in our room, and a lot of guys are ready to play.
Is it defense that West Virginia played at Stack different? I mean, how unique is it, or does it feel like you're playing like sub packages all the time?
I'd just say they try to do a lot of things to confuse us, a lot of blitz, a lot of stem. So us as an O-line, we got to make sure we sit and don't get false starts when the linebacker makes a move call, whatever their call is. So I just feel like they did, because if they try to play us base, I don't really think they can line up in a base defense and kind of just win the game. So I feel like they got to throw a lot of stuff at us, a lot of blitzes to kind of confuse our O-line and the quarterback. So, yes, sir.
What did you know about the backyard brawl before you got to Pitt?
I mean, of course I've seen it on TV, but I never really was like kind of tuned in on how big of a game this is. But after last year and now even this year, going to Morgantown, I know it's the real deal. We get a chance to basically secure our legacy for Pitt winning against West Virginia for the next 3 years, because I think the next time we play them is in 2029 or something like that. So I know this is a big deal for us, a big deal for them, and we just got to come out 1-0.
Anything else? Lyndon, thank you.
Cool. Have a good day.